Boerne Radio 103.9 FM. Coming up at 11:30 is The Power of Perseverance with Glenn Boehm. But right now is Ceasefire with Dale Adams and Ron Cisneros. The following is sponsored by the Boerne Bookshop, and this is Boerne Radio.
Welcome to Ceasefire, where civics meets civility and engagement meets empowerment. Ceasefire is hosted by former Boerne ISD trustee and owner of the Boerne Bookshop, Dale Adams, and by former Boerne City Council member and local insurance agent, Ron Cisneros.
Welcome to Ceasefire, brought to you by the Boerne Bookshop. My name is Dale Adams.
And I'm Ron Cisneros.
And today we've got a fascinating topic that I know is on everybody's mind today. It's religion in society. What role does it play?
And a great topic for a few days after Christmas. And by the way, Dale, how was your Christmas?
It was awesome. My family's all in town, so that's really nice because my son's in Wisconsin, my daughter's in Colorado, and I don't get to see them much. So it's great to see all my family.
Awesome. And I hope they're all sitting around the fireplace listening to the show right now.
Yeah, I hope so too. Actually, I got a note the other day from my son who said, "Hey, I got a mention in your show." I was like, so which means he listens to it, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I know my wife listens, and so I've got one listener for sure.
I think my wife does.
Yeah. All right, let's jump in. We're talking about religion and the role it plays in our society. And one of the first thoughts that comes to mind is that throughout our human history, it has shaped our society. It's shaped our beliefs, our laws, our culture, our government, our economics, our education, and a lot more than that. But I think today, and probably the reason we're talking about it, is it seems to have a diminished role in society.
Right. Yeah, and historically, like you said, it's been around forever, and it's been the glue that sort of held society together.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have that glue now, what do we have? And so that's why we're bringing it. Does it play a role? Is there a role? Do we need it anymore? And we're not really talking about a specific religion, but religion in general, just the concept of religious belief and how that plays into how the society operates.
And I think you can look at other countries, other cultures, and you can see what you were just talking about is that other cultures have religions other than Christianity that have shaped their laws and their beliefs, but they too, like the United States, have seen a diminished role with their religion, and I think that's had an adverse effect to some degree.
Yes, I think there is definitely a point that sometimes religions dig too deep into certain areas, but they've backed off so much now that they have minimal influence in a lot of areas.
Let's tackle that for a second starting with modern culture, I think, because you see this in the media, you see it in movies, you see it in books and magazines and I'm going to speak specifically about Christianity because that by and large is the dominant religion in the United States. But when they are portrayed in films or in the media, we tend to get a view of them that isn't always accurate. And I'll cite for an example, in Footloose, I don't remember the character's name, but John Lithgow, the father, in the film is anti-rock and roll, anti-dancing, and I don't remember if he was a preacher or not. See, you're younger. You have a younger brain.
I'll have to go back.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember.
I'll ponder on that one.
All right. Yeah, you ponder. You're going to use Google, cheater.
Hey, it's using my resources.
But in the film, he represents Christianity. Stuck in the mud, prude, trying to hang on to something old-fashioned. And Kevin Bacon he represents modern America, the youth, freedom, liberalism, right? And so he's the hero. John Lithgow is the bad guy. And I could cite example after example. Another one that comes to mind right away is in the Shawshank Redemption. The Christian in the film is the warden. He's the one that's handing out Bibles, but he's also criminally corrupt, right? And the good guy is Andy Dufresne, or what's his name, Robbins? I can't think of the actor's name, but
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. Yeah. And we don't know anything about his religious beliefs. He's agnostic. But he's the guy that is not corrupt. He's wrongfully imprisoned. He's the guy that helps people out around him. And so it's the Christian that gets vilified.
Yeah.
And so we see this over and over again. And sometimes we have real life examples of that. Go back to the late 80s, maybe it was early 90s, I can't remember. And so we had all the hair metal bands that were real popular at the time, the Twisted Sisters and whatnot. But in addition to that, we saw that we were in the beginnings, the cultural beginnings of the what we call gangster raps, NWA, and some of the crudeness of the Two Live Crew, or the mixture of metal with rap and body count. And you had Tipper Gore, of all people, out there talking about all this music that I'm not sure what her end goal was, but that is how I think religion is portrayed in the United States. Is they're trying to stifle our music. They're trying to keep us from dancing. They're trying to keep us from watching the movies that we want to watch.
And now we have The Handmaid's Tale, which is like the ultimate portrayal of evil religious people. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, I haven't.
I've watched some, and it's pretty harsh and pretty unrealistic, but it seems to be the theme nowadays. I think we even have, in Congress, we had some people dressing up as some of the people in there to show solidarity with the suffering in that movie or show. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a fair thing to do, because Christians, a lot of religions, I shouldn't just single out Christians, but let's focus on them again. They have done some terrible things, but then at the same time, in Christianity, we've seen some good things. The end of child labor, slavery, the end of slavery. We've seen women's rights.
Sacrificing.
Human sacrifice. All of that has ended because of religion. It might have started in the name of religion, but it was also ended in the name of religion.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
I think that's some great points, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the impacts of religious thought on individuals.
Okay.
The Association of Psychological Sciences reported on a study by Kevin Rounding at Queen's University, Ontario, and they were trying to determine how people, just when they think about religion, how that impacts certain behaviors of theirs. And they did a couple of things. One thing they did was they wanted people to drink a vinegary drink. And they separated the two groups. And one of the groups, they didn't talk too much about anything. But the other one, they talked to about religious issues and just talked to them about things. And then afterwards, they were told, okay, in a totally separate sort of environment, how much of this orangey vinegary drink you drink determines how much money you get. And the people that had been prepped by having religious discussions drank more. And this vinegary drink experiment is a evaluation of a person's self-discipline. Are they willing to go do something that they don't want to do, that's yucky, to get the reward? And that self-discipline seemed to be increased by religious discussions. And it was a significant difference. They did 4 experiments. The next one was a delayed gratification. Come in today, you get $5. Come in tomorrow, you get $6. The people that had been prepped by having religious discussions or terms used in the discussions, by and large, waited until tomorrow. Same with something that they called cognitive refueling, which means, do you get worn out? Mm-hmm. Can you just struggle through something and keep working at it? They had this complex puzzle that just couldn't, it was actually an impossible puzzle. And so they just wanted to see how long people would keep working at it. The people that had religious conversations, discussions, or whatnot, by and large, all worked at it much longer than the people that hadn't. Now, their 4th one was an interesting one, was they had multiple pre-discussions. 1 and 2 of them, one was religion and one was morality. And both of those discussions had similar results. If you talk about morality, you will also see increased performance in these self-discipline or self-control kind of issues, as you will with religion. And reading this got me thinking that religion is a moral structure. A lot of religions is about morality. And even talking about religion, even if you're not talking about morality, it brings to your mind moral issues. And so when you do have to go and have self-control and self-discipline and push through things, you've got some moral oomph behind you, keeping you going farther than you would normally.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I know there's a long discussion about it, but it brings home, I think, a little bit about what religion brings. It brings a sort of a structure, a moral structure to society. Everybody's got their own morals, supposedly, but religion structures it into a set of beliefs. And I think that helps reinforce it within the person. So if we all come up with our own morals, then yeah, but they're all different. And they're all slightly different. We don't all know exactly what each other means, but to operate as a society, we have to have some common moral boundaries, and that's what religion, I think, one of the big things that religion provides is that common moral framework.
Excellent thoughts. I agree. I think that makes a lot of sense, and so the absence of that, when we start to move away from religion, I think that's where we start to see I'm struggling here.
Okay, I'll throw something in here.
Okay.
When we lose that, we see two things. One is when everybody, first let me back off for a second. What happens when two religions come together? Sometimes they get along, but a lot of times there's strife.
Yeah, some conflict.
And I think a big part of that, not all of it, but a big part is the slightly different moral structures. Mm-hmm. And so trying to get those moral structures to mesh to create a society is challenging. When we lose religion as a bonding issue or structure in our society, everybody has their own moral structure. And then you've got those little conflicts between people because people have different moral structures than each other. Now they do anyway, but society generally tries to impose an overall moral structure, and everybody says, okay, I'll agree with that anyway. So you're getting all these mini conflicts, whereas when you have a religion in a society, you have less of that. Not none, but less. And another thing I think is when you have no religious structure, or more, when you have no moral structure, people will turn to another structure, and that'll be the legal structure. And suddenly, laws are our morals. And maybe we can talk about this sometime, but morality and legality are very different. And you try and replace one with the other, it doesn't always work.
As I was preparing notes for the show, I was thinking about something you'd actually touched on, the book recommendation from a prior show about where our rights come from. And early on in the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson writes that we have these inalienable rights that come from our Creator. Mm-hmm. That's very important because if they come from the government, then they're man-given and man can take them away. The government decides what your laws are going to be. But if they come from a Creator, then you have them at birth. Right. You have them before birth, but you have these rights, and no man can take them away. That's very important. Yeah. And I think that's the problem with what you were just saying, and I think it ties into that fourth point, that fourth study that they did, where there's the lack of religion, but there's this moral discussion. Yeah. Without that higher power, that belief in something other than yourself, then it's man-given, and it's meaningless.
Because what do you base your morals on? If you're not basing them on something outside saying you better behave. I'm going to go ahead and change my morals this week because I really want to do something different.
I was thinking, as I was developing my ideas for the show, I was thinking about ancient Greece and the practice of pedophilia, which was very common among the ancient Greeks. So they grooming young boys to have sex with older men. And it was, in their minds, not immoral. It was custom. I don't know enough about the Greek culture to know if they thought that was a divinely given right from their many gods, or if that was just an established practice. So in fairness to them, I don't know. But they would not have thought the act immoral. It was Christians who came in and said, that's repugnant, you can't do that. And I think that ties into what we're saying, is that the morality was based on, not on a religious belief, but on a custom or a practice, or it could have even been based in their law. But it was not based on a higher power, I don't think.
Okay.
Am I making a connection here, or am I off in the ocean?
No, I'm not sure, because I don't know enough about the history of that as to whether it had any basis in religion. But it could be that Greek religion, I'm not sure, had a lot of morality built into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about capricious gods that did whatever they wanted, and humans were the fodder underneath their feet kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Christianity or Judaism brought in the morality
Mm-hmm.
of a lot of religious morality that a lot of, I was going to say that other religions didn't have, but I'm not even sure if they didn't have it. But the Greek religion in particular, I don't know if it had much of it or not.
Yeah.
I think a lot of their philosophies came up with moral codes, but I'm not sure it came from the religion. But we're also talking about a time period when societies were just starting. We just come from a more small family units and created cities and stuff. And so it was a very formative stage, I think, for religions and traditions
Mm-hmm.
and belief structures and all that, and morals even. Yeah.
I got us off on a bunny trail again.
Interesting. It is interesting, though. It's interesting, though. But it does lead into something that I recently come to understand, and that's about the changes in cultures, traditions, and religions and how they evolve. And this is an original thought with me. I read something by Jordan Peterson that made me think about this. And he talked about how beliefs and traditions grow and evolve based on what is useful to the culture. And things that aren't useful to the culture fall away. Now, in today's world, we're used to fads coming and going every 6 months. But religions and traditions grow over the centuries. And how do those beliefs and those structures evolve? Hold on. How do those beliefs and structures stay on in a society if they're not good for the society? Just like in an organism that's evolved slowly, like how do you get, I don't know, fur or whatever you want to call it in an evolution. Mm-hmm. But it's the same thing for these societies. And religion is almost the ultimate of this evolved structure that has served humanity for millennia. And it's changed. Different religions have changed, but they've all pursued this purpose of, I don't want to say controlling society, but organizing society so that we can get along.
Mm-hmm.
Because as selfish beings, we generally don't get along, and religion really helps to do that.
No, it gets you to look at the world outside of yourself,
yes,
and put the needs of other people before your own. And without religion, what would compel you to do that?
Force, government,
yeah,
the warlord, yeah. So religion became a moral force, to replace physical force.
Yeah, and I think there's a nobility in that. The idea that you, out of desiring to be good and righteous, would go and help somebody else.
Yeah.
And do things to help your community, or help the impoverished, or help the disabled, or the afflicted, versus being compelled by government to do those things, which is more noble.
Yeah.
I mean,
the religion develops your sense of responsibility. Without a sense of responsibility to others, what do you have? You have anarchy almost. Yeah.
And I don't want to run afoul of any local Christian pastors here, but that sense of looking out into your community and doing good and righteousness, that's not exclusive to Christianity.
No, I think all religions have that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of commonality among religions. I think they all espouse responsibility, morality, community, things like that. Yeah, regardless of whether they're monotheistic or pantheistic or whatever.
Right.
They all have some of those commonalities of behavioral, I don't want to say control, but encouraging certain behaviors.
But for the sake of our fellow Christian listeners, a few days after Christmas, yay, Jesus.
Oh, come on. We had a very nice religious Christmas.
Very good.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move in another direction. We're going to take a break, I think, right? We haven't had a break yet. Or are we about to get? Don't even bother.
At this point, just keep going because we're at 21 minutes anyway already.
Oh, my goodness.
We'll just keep going then.
If we had more religion, we'd be more responsible to Lexi and the time that the radio station needs for advertisements. But
Okay. I'll bring out my book now. Okay, so most people here know about C.S. Lewis from the Chronicles of Narnia, which are a great set of books, but he also wrote a lot of religious books, and we have quite a few of them at the Boerne Bookshop, and he's got one called Mere Christianity, which is one of the best descriptions of Christianity as a whole, not particular denominations or anything, but one of the best discussions on what is Christianity. And we sell quite a few of these, actually. People are still interested in learning, but it's a great book, and I recommend it.
One of the many books that I've purchased from you but have yet to read. It's in that stack.
Okay, so you don't have to add this one. It's already there.
It's already at the house, and it sits next to, or was sitting next to, The Problem with Pain, which I intend to read, but Kat picked it up before I did, and it was actually going to be next on my list.
So she's reading your stack.
She's going through my stack.
Okay, she's more responsible than you are.
I've never questioned that. That is entirely true, and anybody that knows me and knows her knows that is the absolute truth.
Yeah. I guess my big takeaway on our discussion and my readings of this is that religion plays a huge role in creating a societal structure that's positive and allows people to thrive. Because if you don't have it, you have to turn to something else, and government just doesn't quite do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw something interesting the other day on the Facebook page for my neighborhood HOA, and it was an individual in my neighborhood that put out information for a food drive that was related to their, I don't know what you call it in the Hindu world, their equivalent of a church.
Oh.
But they were doing a food drive, and to our point that this is not exclusive to Christianity, the notion that you want to go out and be a responsible citizen and a responsible human being and look out in the world at things that you can take care of, that you can fix. And they're inspired by their religion to go out and do that.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think all religions have that, even the ones that we look at and we deride. They all have something. Anything that's stuck around for millennia in our society where people come and go is incredible. And it amazes me that something can survive, some institution can survive for thousands of years. It blows my mind when the latest fad is gone 6 months later. Who were the top of the charts 5 years ago? I have no idea.
I don't either.
Yeah. I don't even know what the best movie was 5 years ago.
Lexi? You want to cheat and use Google?
No. Rhetorical question. But
Lexi's thinking now.
Now I'm going back
She's on a mission.
5 years ago. Yeah. 2019. What came out in 2019? It would probably be the last Avengers movie. Was probably it.
Oh yeah, I think that's an easy guess because there's been nothing but Avengers movies for the last 20 years.
The final one?
been that long? Seems like just yesterday. I don't know. Did I watch the last one?
Yes, 2019 Avengers Endgame. Guarantee you that was number one.
Is that where they all died in the end, or is that when they all come back after dying? There's so many weird things that happen in the last couple of movies.
I'm pretty sure that's the one where they come back after they died.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's our new religion, right?
Comic books.
Marvel comic books. Oh,
for a lot of young men in the 40s and 50s, that's where they got a sense of morality from. Wrong, justice.
Yes. True.
I'd rather look back at the past of some of those than what is coming out now as.
The interesting thing is those did have references to religion. Mm-hmm. And they even had characters that were modeled on religious figures, even though they didn't say so. And yet now today, you'll never see that.
That's interesting. What was Batman based on?
No idea.
I don't either. I'm sorry. One of my bunny trails. I apologize.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to have to cut this one short. Sorry. I'm going to end with a prayer, though.
All right.
Dear Lord, thank you for our opportunity to speak to those who will listen, for the prosperity that we have in our country, in our nation, in humanity, and all the opportunities we're presented, and for keeping us safe when we're safe, and for challenging us when we need to be challenged.
Amen. All right.
And if you've missed any of our shows, you can go to Boerne Radio and listen to our podcasts.
Awesome. Yeah, and in 1 week, we'll talk about New Year's resolutions.
Oh, boy.
All right,
We
you ready?
have to?
Yes, we have to. It's time.
Okay, I know. I need to do it. I'd rather talk about keeping resolutions than making them. 'Cause that's my problem.
Oh, yeah. That's a topic for another show.
We'll do 2 shows. Okay. We'll see y'all later. Bye. Bye. Boerne has its own bookshop. In fact, it's called the Boerne Bookshop. Hi, I'm Dale Adams, inviting you to get lost. Get lost in a good book in our relaxed and casual atmosphere. We have a wide and eclectic selection in the Boerne Bookshop, and we pride ourselves on finding what you're looking for. We do author meet and greets, host writing workshops, and can connect you with a good book club. And your young ones will absolutely love our kids section at the Boerne Bookshop. And while we want you to get lost, we're easy to find, as we're in the heart of Boerne at the back of the Richter Tavern building. We are the Boerne Bookshop.